Scott, you've been appointed Director of Rugby for Scottish Rugby. It's a massive job. What's appealed to you? What's the challenge for you of taking on the role?
Look, we talk about sport leaving a legacy. I think for me, at my age and with my experience, I'd like to find that I got an opportunity to leave Scotland in a place that was better than when I got here. And I think the diversity of the role and the expanse of the role is encouraging, and it's also exciting for me.
The fact that for many people they regarded your stint as interim head coach as successful, a number of fans have said, Jono, why don't you stay on as head coach? What's your response to them?
Look, it was a difficult one, and we sat down with the board, and I said from day one that I was going to make a decision that was in the best interest of Scotland, and I always said that. And I loved being part of that team. That team's important to me, and when we sat down and looked at the candidates, and by doing this role, which is something that I really like to do because I like to keep busy and I like to do other things. And international coaching, you're stagnant for a large period of time. This allowed me to do both because I can still coach with the national team, and that's an attraction for me. So I get the best of both things. I keep busy, I can leave a mark in Scotland that I hope is a positive one, and can also coach, and I'm very fortunate to be allowed to do both. And so I think it's a good decision for Scotland. It's a good decision for me personally. And at the end of the day, I'd like to say, as I said before, I've got just had a grandson, and I'd like to think in 10 or 15 years I can bring him back, and I'm welcome because it's a positive influence.
The biggest challenge most people in elite rugby in Scotland, or indeed in grassroots rugby in Scotland, face is a numbers challenge.
Yeah.
Do you see that as your main priority, to actually increase the number of people playing the game and then become more competitive?
Look, it's a priority where it sits. We'd like to think that with the population that we've got, we need more people playing. That's what we need. But we need not the traditional rugby face just playing the game. We'd like to expand it into all the horizons because Scotland's got good athletes here that obviously are not playing this game we can attach to, and some in underdeveloped areas. And we want to make rugby a viable alternative to other sports because it's taken a kid like myself to go around the world from a humble background. I've been fortunate to see the world through the sport. It's opened doors for me, and I think most kids around the world should have that opportunity, and I see that as an important factor. It's one of the many important factors in our growth of the game.
And lastly, Dodson and Humphreys coming on board as forwards coach. You obviously worked with Jonathan over a long period of time at the Ospreys, and in terms of developing young talent, he's got quite a track record there.
Well, it was the attraction for me for that. He was off contract. You're right, I had worked with him, and what's not often known about John is he's produced so many lines, and he's developed from such a young age. And part of his role with us was to develop young kids, and I don't want a national team, a coaching team, just focusing on the top end. We need to go out, and we need to go at all levels. And Jonathan's done that. That's been his job, and he's produced 7 or 8 line forwards in the last 8 years whilst he's been there. It's an incredible record, all local kids, and that's an attraction to me because he doesn't have to stand up. He's not the head coach. He'll be working with the head coach. He'll be working with me, and you need someone to get your hands dirty and get around, and has a proven track record to do so. So to me, it was an attraction, and rest assured, he's a terrific fella.
Joined now by Mark Dodson, Scottish Rugby's Chief Executive. Mark, you've announced at the press conference there that Scottish Rugby has identified the next head coach of the Scotland team. The deal is done, it just can't be announced as yet. It'll be announced in the coming weeks. Is there anything you can explain to supporters about the background to that and what you're looking for from the new head coach?
Yeah, I think we're looking for a very highly experienced, top-class head coach, and I think it's been a global search. We've looked all over the world at the very best candidates, and it's unfortunate we're not able to tell you who that person is today, but I promise you there's been a huge amount of work gone in the background, and lots of discussions and negotiations have taken place. I'm delighted to say we've concluded that search now.
Some supporters have said Scott Johnson did a good job as interim head coach, our highest position, third in the RBS Six Nations for quite a few years. What's the reason for his move to the role of Director of Rugby? What are you looking to achieve from that?
I think when we decided we were going to have an SIU Director of Rugby, we started to flesh out that job description, and you looked at the kind of things that were in there, the elements in terms of developing players, developing coaches, starting academies, improving skills, working with our pro teams, sevens. You looked at all these things and you thought, well, that's going to have to be a fairly uniquely talented individual who has experience of several different setups. And when we actually looked at this, Scott kind of immediately fitted the bill. And he actually, when we looked across the whole of the other candidates that we were considering, his CV fitted that role perfectly. And so it became quite clear that we had the guy to do that role. And then that meant we would have to go and get another head coach. So that's why we approached it in that format.
Inevitably there's a focus on the elite end, the Scotland end, but looking at the job remit for Scott Johnson in the Director of Rugby role, there's a huge emphasis as well on the beginnings of the game, club rugby, grassroots.
I think there's been a justifiable criticism that we haven't really done as much work as we could have done at grassroots level to develop talent, Scottish talent, both from a coaching and a player perspective. And these guys are going to be working right down at grassroots level, through our club system, straight through to elite level, and joining up our thinking across the whole of the Scottish rugby portfolio. And it's very important that we actually make people understand that their job is so widespread, because we have to develop as much talent as we possibly can from this nation, and it's their job to make that happen.
So what attracted you to the job with Scotland?
It was the vision that was sold to me by Mark, to go and coach international rugby and have an influence over a lot of the systems that go in through Scottish rugby. It's a huge job, but I believe there's a huge amount of potential in Scottish rugby, and hopefully I'll have some influence over some success hopefully.
And what do you think you can particularly bring to the job?
Hopefully, my principles are trying to make things as simple as you possibly can, so everybody understands that. I hope that the stuff that we try to do over the coming months and years is simplistic, and everybody understands and believes in what we're trying to do. And if I can do that, then hopefully we get something from it.